We begin today the Gemara at the bottom of Daf Vav Amud Beis Omar Rava. Here the Gemara is going to continue with halachas regarding the Kidushin Kesef. Omar Rava. Rava said, 10 mana leploini. A woman tells to this man, give a mana, give the Kesef Kidushin leploini. Don't give it to me, give it to someone else. And vakadesh ani loch, and I will be married to you. And that's what the man did. He went and gave the money to that individual. And when he gave the money to that individual, he told the Isha, hiskatshili, or hareat mukadeshesli. The halacha is mukadeshes. She's mukadeshes even though she did not receive this money. So the Gemara explains why. Midin arev. This is similar to a guarantor that never borrowed the money, but nevertheless, he becomes obligated to pay back the loan. How does this happen? Arev, in the case of Arev, lav, isn't it true that even though there was no money, there was no benefit that actually came into his hands, but he's able to subjugate himself to pay this loan. So hayitsanami, so this woman here as well, even though she did not get any actual hana of money, nevertheless, kamishabda umekanya nafsha. She can still be acquired. She's giving herself, and she gets acquired to her husband through the fact that he gave the money to this other person. So there's two pshatim in Rishonim how this actually works, though. How does it work by an Arev, and how does it work by an Isha? Some Rishonim say she didn't get actual money. The Arev doesn't get actual money, but he has hana. The fact that an Arev tells a person, lend someone money, and I guarantee that I'll pay back if he doesn't pay back. This person has hana that the Malva is listening to him, that he trusts him. He's a trustworthy person in the business world. So there's hana to that. Same thing over here. The Isha has a certain hana by the fact that the husband listens and gives the money to that individual, even though she didn't get actual money, but she gets hana. That's one pshat in Rishonim. Another pshat is that from Arev you learn out that one Yid gets money, we consider it as if the Arev gets money. If the Arev says l'chatchila, when you're borrowing the money, but it's as if I'm going to be borrowing the money in your place if you can't pay, and I'll pay as if I borrowed the money. So from Arev we see the Torah says that it's as if the Arev himself got the money and he'll be obligated to pay. So too an Isha, if you give the money on her command to someone else, it's as if she got that money and she's Mukadeshes. That's what we learn out from Arev. Okay, that's the first Chiddush of Rava, which is focusing on the receiving the money, that even if she didn't actually get the money, she'll still be Mukadeshes. The second Chiddush Rava said, and here the Chiddush is on giving. Usually, who has to give the Kesef Kidushin? The husband, of course. But what happens if Heilach Maneh, the woman goes and says to a man, or again, the man comes along and gives money to this Isha and says, I'm giving you money, but you're not becoming Mukadeshes to me. V'izkatshi leploini, and you become Mukadeshes to someone else. Now, according to Rashi, the case over here is that this person was appointed as a shliach from that individual to go and be Mekadesher. So usually, if it's a shlichus, you don't need any additional chiddush that he could be mekadesher to that mishaleach that sent the shliach to be mekadesher. But over here, the case is that this person is not using the kesef kiddushin of the mishaleach. He's using his own money to be mekadesher. You need the kesef kiddushin to belong to the mishaleach, to the one that she's getting married to. So over here, the kesef kiddushin didn't come from the husband, but nevertheless, mekudeshes midin evet kanani. She'll still be Mekudeshes, and we could learn this out from an Evet Kanani. And that's when an Evet Kanani gets freed from his master. So what do we see over there? Evet Kanani, what happens by an Evet Kanani when he gets freed? So Lav, isn't it true? He's not paying anything to free himself from his master, because at that point when he's still owned by his master, he has no money of his own. Someone else comes along and redeems him and gives money to the master. But nevertheless, what happens? Kokoni nafshei. Nevertheless, he acquires himself when someone else gives the money to his master. So hai gavranami, this individual as well, the husband here, he didn't give the kesef kiddushin. He's not giving up anything. He's not giving the kesef kiddushin. Kokoni lo lahai itze. Nevertheless, he can acquire this wife through the fact that someone else is giving the money in his place. Okay, so over here the chiddush is on the other end, that there's no proper nesina on the end of the husband. Someone else gave it instead of him, and nevertheless shall be mukadeshes to this husband. So as I mentioned, Rashi says that it must be that the one giving the money is a shliach, But there are other Rishonim that argue and say that even without the din of shlichus, there's a separate din of Evet Kanani, that when someone else does this in your place, when it comes to a kinyan, you don't need the chiddush of shlichus. He never appointed you as a shliach, and nevertheless you'll become a kadeshes to this man. Furthermore, Rava said, now here in the third case, Rava spoke about, he's going to combine both of these cases together, and you can learn out from both of them together, and that shall still be mukadeshes. 10, mana leplaini, the Isha comes along and says, give a mana to so-and-so. Va'kadesh ani loy, and I will become mukadeshes to him. So here, not she got the money, and not the husband that she's getting married to gave the money. Someone else gave the money, and someone else is receiving the money. But still, the halacha is mukadeshes. She'll be married. And here, as the Gemara explains, midin shneiim, we combine the chiddush of both of these cases, the chiddush of Arev, that even if she doesn't mamish receive the money, and the chiddush of Evet Kanani, even if the husband didn't mamish give the money, she's mukadeshes. As the Gemara spells out. Because lav, isn't it true? By an Arev it is. By an Arev, isn't it true? Lav, afagav deloy kamati anali yadei, even though the Arev didn't get any money in this loan, kamishabed nafshay, but nevertheless, he becomes subjugated to pay. So it's a nami, the same is also with a woman. As we said before, even though she didn't get actual money, had benefit from money, nevertheless, by the fact that the husband gives money to someone else on her command, she can become acquired to her husband. Okay, so that's the comparison to Arev. But in this case, though, the husband didn't give the money. So, but midami, we can't learn out regarding this case from Arev alone, because Arev, the kakani lay, the one that's acquiring is losing money. Over there, there's a malva. The malva is giving up money, and the Arev is becoming mishubah to that malva that lent the money. But but over here, in this case, what's happening is the man that's acquiring this wife as this woman as a wife, he never gave the kesef Kidushin. Someone else gave the kesef Kidushin in his place. He's not giving the money, so how could she become a kadeshes to him? So therefore we say, Evet Kanani Yechiach. So we learn out from Evet Kanani, the Evet Kanani does not give the actual money to redeem himself. And he acquires, even with someone else, giving the money in his place. So too this husband could acquire this wife without giving the money himself. Again, we can't learn out from Evet Kanani alone, because midami, it's not the same. Over there, the one that's acquiring is giving money. It's talking over there about the master. The master that's makne the evet to be free, so he's giving the evet his freedom, kakani. He's getting money for it. Over here, when it comes to this woman, so she is getting acquired. She's giving herself up to be acquired by the husband, and she's not getting a penny. So we say Arev Yechiach. So that we learn out from the Arev that the Isha does not literally have to receive money. Even though the Arev doesn't get any money, he subjugates himself to be chayiv, to pay for the loan. So we put the two together. We learn out from Arev that she doesn't have to literally receive the money. We learn out from Evet Kanani that he doesn't have to literally give the money. Someone else can give it in his place, and she can be mekadeshes, even this way. Rav asks a shaila. What happens if the Isha comes and gives money to the husband? And she says, here, this is your money, v'kadesh anilach, and I'll be mekadeshes to you. Right, so the case over here, l'chayra, has to be that he reads, as Rashi says, not l'chayra. Rashi says there that he got this money from her, and the husband tells her, hiskachili bekach, or harayat mekadeshesli, with this money that the Isha is giving to the husband. Mahu, what's the halach over here? Now, what's Rava asking over here? What kind of a question is this? We had it already before in the Gemara on Daf Dalet. It says ki yikach, that the man has to give the money, and not the woman to give the money to the man. Okay, so we'll see from the continuation of the Gemara that what the Svaras are to say, that even when a woman gives money, she should be mekadeshes. We already saw how things could be different than usual and upside down, but over here the Gemara will explain. So so he answered and said that Rav Papa said mekadeshes. It actually works. She is mekadeshes. Ravashi, so Ravashi asked, Lamar Zutre, if you're going to say over here that this Isha gives money to the husband, to the man, and she gives the money, and she becomes mukadeshes as well to this man. So now the man's getting first money, and then with the money, he's also getting a wife. It comes out in Kain, Havale Nechasim, Sheyesh La Machrayis, Niknin im nechasim she'en lemachrayis. This is going to be a situation where you have nechasim sheyesh lemachrayis. Nechasim sheyesh lemachrayis usually refers to a piece of land, which is called yesh lemachrayis because it's not going anywhere. You could always rely on it. If someone takes responsibility to pay up something, the land is always there. And so now, before I read the Gemara inside, usually the halacha is there's a kinyan called kinyan agav. What's the concept of kinyan agav? If you sell someone a piece of land, along with it, you can have a kinyan of various metaltalin, furniture or whatever other kind of metaltalin, and you don't need a separate kinyan for them. They'll be acquired along with the land automatically. That's called kinyan agav. So usually the way it works is metaltalin gets acquired together with karka. But over here, a isha, a human being, and in this case the isha, is equivalent to karka. Rashi brings the source, just like by an eved, we find that an eved is like karka. So over here, what's happening is she's giving him money, which is metaltalin, and then she's getting acquired to the husband along with that money. So if so, the Gemara says, so what's happening is, you have over here this woman, which is like a piece of land, and she's getting acquired to her husband with the money, which is metaltalin. But we learned that the concept of kinyan agav works in the opposite fashion. When you have monies, possessions, that there's no responsibility for them, this is metaltalin that move around. Niknin, you could acquire them along with a piece of land that you acquire that stays where it is. And that's with the kinyan of the kesef, b'shtar, or b'chazaki. You make a proper kinyan of one of these three regarding the land, and the metaltalin comes along. So over here, from this question that Rav Ashi is asking, you can see what the Gemara was thinking was the taka de pshat. Why should a woman be acquired to her husband if she's giving the kesef to the man and not the other way around? The havamin of the Gemara was that this is some form of kinyan agav. Just like kinyan agav, you acquire one thing and along with that comes something else. Maybe we could say, since we find before in the Gemara that a isha, the kinyan of a isha, kesef, is compared to karka, so just like by karka there's a concept of kinyan agav, maybe by an isha as well, when she gives the money, so she becomes acquired to her husband, agav that money. But on that the Gemara asks, but agav works the other way around. The karka pulls along with it the metaltalin, not the metaltalin brings along the karka with it. Amalei. So he answered, Mazutra answered, Mi savris da amru agav. Do you think that the svar over here is that she should be acquired to the husband with this din of agav? That's not what it is. The halacha of Papa said was, when we're talking about a very prominent individual, the bahia no, the kavakal matanim no, with the fact that he's receiving this money, this gift from her, gamra umekanya le'nafsha. She acquires herself to her husband. Meaning, this is a man that is beneath his dignity to receive money, a gift from anyone. The fact that he's receiving money from her is valuable to her, has a value of a shava pruta for her. So when she gives him money, it's as if she got a shava pruta from him. And therefore she's mekadeshes because of that hana, which has a value of a shava pruta. That's the concept of here, the kinyan of a adam chashuv, that she can give him money and be mekadeshes. It manami mishmei de Rav. Now we learned also in the name of Rav. Rav is the one that said before all the halachas we mentioned regarding Eved, the kinyan of Kidushin that's midin Arev, or midin Eved Kanani, and midin Shneim. So Rav said, v'chein le'inyan memayna. The same will be true regarding a kinyan for a mominist, and you have the kinyan that's usually the kaina pays the meicher, but if it was done in any of the ways that we said before, it'll work by money as well. Says the Gemara, it was necessary to spell this out, that it works by money matters as well, and not only by Kidushin. If I would say that by Kidushin, you could have the Kidushin take effect even if he didn't give the money directly, someone gave it for him. Or even if she didn't receive the money herself, someone else received it for her. Mishum, I could say, the reason is, because a wife, a woman, is ready to get married even for anything. Kidrish Lakish, as Lakish says about the nature of a woman, the Amir Lakish tav lemesav tandu. It's better for her to sit two bodies together than to sit alone. So therefore, she would be ready and willing to be married, even if she's not receiving kesef kedushin in the normal fashion. But when it comes to a money transaction, you don't have this svara. Maybe here you need a proper money that's paid directly from the seller from the buyer to the seller. On the other hand, if they would tell me this halacha regarding money, that even if it's not in the regular way that the money was given or received, but I would say the reason why the sale takes effect is mishum disyav lo mechila. When it comes to money matters, a person is able to be meichel that I don't have to have the actual money. I can sell it to you even without money. You can make a ma'aseh king even without it. So therefore I would say that if the money is given in the fashion mentioned before, where it's not given properly, it's not received properly, it should take effect. But not by Kidushin, though. By Kidushin, you don't have the svara of Mechila, it should not take effect. Tzricha therefore tells me this halacha applies to Kidushin and to money matters. Amar Rave, another halacha Rave said about Kidushin. Hiskachili lechetziai. A man comes and says to a woman, you should be married to half of me. Kudeshes, the Kidushin takes effect. Chetziech mukudeshesli. However, if he tells a woman, half of you should be mukudeshes to me, then ain't mukudeshes. Then the Kidushin does not take effect. Amalei Abaye, so Abaye asks Rava, what's the difference? Why is it when he says to a woman, half of you is mukudeshes to me? So she's not mukudeshes because Isha Amar Achmana. Doesn't the Torah yikach ish Isha? So you marry a wife fully. There's no such a thing as a Kidushin should take effect on a Chatzi Isha. Hachanami, if so, the same thing is regarding a man. Ish Amar Achmana, the Torah says that a Ish, he mad the Kidushin is that if the man fully marries, there's no Kidushin for a Chatzi Ish as well. Amalei, so Rava answers, there's no comparison when a man says half of me is marrying you, or when he says half of the Isha is married to him. Because when it comes to a Chatzi Isha, it's a lebeitrei lechazia. A woman can't be married to two men at the same time. So therefore, if he's telling her, half of you is marrying me, what does he mean to say? He doesn't mean to say that you're going to be half married to me, meaning I'm giving you the right to marry someone else also at the same time. No, because there's no such a thing. So what did he mean? He meant literally that you're going to be mukudeshes halfway. And on that the pasuk says, v'lo chatzi isha, there's no such a thing as marrying a half isha. Elo gavra, but when it comes to the man, mila chazi lebeitrei, isn't it possible for a man to marry two wives? So when he says only half of me is being married to you, what he meant to say is if I desire to marry another wife, nasivna, I'm telling you now in advance that I might marry another wife. But he's not saying half of me should be married because there's no such a thing. It can't be a chatzi ish. He's just giving himself the space to marry another wife. But Marzutra asks on this Ravina, again, this is regarding the case where he tells the Isha that half of you should be married to me, so it doesn't work because the Torah says Isha v'lechatzi Isha, but v'nifshetullah Kidushin b'kula. Why doesn't the Kiddushin in this Isha that took effect in half of her, why shouldn't it then spread in the entire Isha? Where do we find such a concept? By a carbon. Miloi Tanya, didn't we learn in a Braisa? Person comes and says the foot of this behemoth, this animal should be a carbon oila. Tehei kula oila. The whole thing, the whole behemoth becomes a oila. That kedusha that's there in the foot extends and spreads in the entire animal. Now, that's by a case where you said the foot. Now the Gemara adds, there's an opinion that says that in such a case it will not extend to the whole animal. That's because he was makdish only a foot, which is not something where the life of the animal depends on that foot. But if he's makdish an organ of the animal, which is the life of the animal, it can't live without it, so then he will agree that in such a case, the statement that was said about that one organ of the animal that you makdish it extends and spreads and the whole animal becomes kaddish. So over here we should say the same thing, that the dibur of the man, this is the way Rashi puts it, the maimer, the statement the person said, Hareyat mukadeshes, chatziech, that is. Chatziech is mukadeshes to me. It should be extended and say that the chatziech includes the whole isha. Just like when you makdish a behemah, the words that you makdish on a portion of the behemah is extending in the entire animal. Says the Gemara, you can't compare this. Mi dami, there's no comparison. Why? Hasam behemah. Over there, it's the person being makdish a behemah. There's no one else involved. So his words will extend in the entire behemah, that it all becomes hektish. But hacha das acheres. Over here, though, there's another party involved in this. Over here, he's telling this isha half of Yuz Mekadeshes. There's a isha, there's a woman over here that's only giving her consent that half of her should be married. The other half, he didn't tell her. So therefore, in such a case, his words cannot extend to this full body of the isha to be fully Mekadeshes to him. And the Gemara continues to explain the answer. So Holy Damya, our case will only be similar to the following. What Rabbi Yechanan said, if you had a behemoth that was owned by partners, hiktish chatzia, so one partner went and was makdish half of the animal. And then, so now in such a case, you're not going to say that the other half of the animal becomes hektish automatically. The other half belongs to another shutef. It can't spread into the other half of the animal that doesn't belong to you. And because of a lakha, And then he went and bought off his partner, the other part of the animal, and then vigdisha, and now he went and he was makdish it. So kedusha, what happens is that the kedusha takes effect, but ve'ena kreva, it cannot be brought as a carbon. Now the reason why it becomes kedusha is because he bought off the other half, so he's makdish one half, and now he's makdish the other half. But it can't be brought as a carbon. Why can't it be brought as a carbon? So Rashi explains the reason is because the moment the behemoth, you were makdish it in the beginning in a way that it was possible for a carbon, so it was rejected. Its kedusha originally was in a way that it was rejected of being brought as a carbon. It can never be brought as a carbon again, even if later you will fully makdish it. V'oiset tmura. Now the halacha of tmura will apply to this animal. Right? The halacha of tmura is when you say that I want the kedusha of this animal to go on something else, so you're not allowed to do that. But if you say so, the kedusha of this animal does go on something else. But that other animal will have the same status as this animal, which is that it has kedusha, but it can't be brought on the mizbeach. Okay, so here we see this concept that if you have a behemoth that's owned by partners, you can't be makdish half and then say that the kedusha extends to the other half. It doesn't extend to the other half. Okay, now derech hagav, the Gemara says from this halacha that Rabbi Yechanan taught here, we learn out three halachas that applies to this halacha of hektish. Shma mina, we learn from here three things. Plus, Shma mina, we learn from here Balei Chayim Nidachim. Number one, we learn a halacha that even a live animal that's hektish, and there was a psul, it was for some reason pushed off that it can't be brought as a carbon, even if later something changes, but once it was pushed off, it can never be brought as a carbon again. Now there's a machlekes about this in the Gemara, and Yuma Rashi brings, there's an opinion that says that only the behemoth after it was shechted, and then there was something a psul that happened, so you can't be makriv it anymore in the mizbeach. But over here, what did Rabbi Yechanan say? This animal, when you were makdish it, when it was alive, so because l'chatchila only half of it was hektish, even when you makdish the other half, it's too late. Because originally you couldn't bring it on the mizbeach. So you see that even when it's alive, it becomes nitche and it can't be brought again. Second thing we learn out, from here we see also that something that right from the very first moment that you makdish it, it wasn't able to be brought as a carbon, so then it's considered to be pushed away, pushed off, and it can never be brought again. And this is what Rashi brings from the Gemara and Sukkot and Machlekes. There's another opinion that says only if it was once fit as a carbon, and then it got pushed off, then I say it can't be brought again as a carbon. And the third thing I learn out from here is V'shma mina yesh dichli b'damim. I see over here that even when you have something that only became hektish, not the body itself really became hektish. It only became hektish for the value of the money of it. And that's really what's going on over here. Because when you're makdish half of a behemoth, since you can't bring it on the mizbeach, because only half of it is hektish, so what does it mean it's hektish in the beginning? It's only hektish for the money, that you could sell it, and then with the money you get for it, bring a proper carbon. So even though the hektish in the beginning was only for its money, but nevertheless, once it was pushed off to be brought as a carbon, even at that point, later when you makdish the other half, you can't bring it as a carbon. Okay. Now the Gemara goes back to the halachas mentioned before regarding being mekadesh a half a woman. So Rava asked the following: what happens if chetziech b'chatzi pruta? He tells a woman half of you should be mekadeshes with a half a pruta, and v'chetziech b'chatzi pruta, and another half of you should be mekadeshes with another half a pruta. Mahu. How do we interpret this? What this person is saying here? Do I say kibun damalach chatzi pruta paska? Once he divided this and he said a half a pruta, and then he's going to say another half a pruta for another half, so this is cut off. So therefore, what he meant to say is l'chatchila he was only makdish one half, and therefore the Kidushin doesn't take effect. Or perhaps we should say, no, the way to understand what this person is saying is he's just specifying, for whatever reason this guy is specifying that I'm giving you a pruta and that pruta is divided, one half a pruta for one half of you and the other half a pruta for the other half of you. But he's really being mekadesh the entire Isha. If you're going to say in this scenario that this person over here is just specifying and he really is being mekadesh the entire woman, so chetziech bepruta v'chetziech bepruta. If he tells the woman half of you I'm being mekadesh with a full pruta and your other half with another full pruta, mahu. So how do we interpret this? Kivin damala bepruta or pruta, since he's telling her separately I'm being mekadesh half of you with a full pruta, so then pascal milse. So over here it seems more that he's cutting off, that he's being mekadesh only one half. Or perhaps I say, if he's saying that half of you and the other half are being mekadeshes all today, it's all on the same day, so he's just specifying that she's all going to be mekadeshes to him on this day. Furthermore, the Gemara asks him, if you're going to say regarding this case, as long as he's saying that she'll be fully mikadeshes by the end of the day, so it's really all one long thing. How about if he told her, he gives her 2 prutas, and first he tells her, he gives her 1 half of pruta, and he tells her half of you is going to be mikadeshes today, and he gives her then another half of pruta, and he says, your other half will be mikadeshes to me tomorrow. So what's the halacha here? Since over here he's dividing that half today and half tomorrow, paska. So this cuts off the Kidushin and he's being mekadosh a half a woman. This is what he meant to say to her. The Kidushin begins to take effect today. The effect of the Kidushin will be dragged out and will conclude tomorrow. But really he's being mekadosh the entire Isha, but for whatever reason he's just dragging out the chalais, the effect of the Kidushin. Last child of the Gemara asks, Shnei chetziech bepruta mahu. What if a person gives 2 parts of a pruta and he gives it to her all at once and he says, both halves of you are going to be mukadeshes to me with a pruta. Mahu. So what's the halacha here? So do I say, Hacha vade bechadzim nekamala? Since over here he's telling her all at once that both of your halves should be mukadeshes with 1 pruta, so he's mekadesh the woman entirely. She's mukadeshes. Oy dilme, or perhaps I say, Ein isha miskadeshes lachatzoin klal. You can never be mekadesh a woman half, which somebody should say what this Gemara means to say. Even in this lashon of shnei chetziech, he still means to divide half and another half. Or others say that the miyot of isha, v'loy chatzi isha, goes so far that even though the entire Kidushin is the chalais, is taking effect all at once, but nevertheless, the way he's doing the Maisa Kidushin, he's saying Shnei Chetziech, so there's like a Maisa Kidushin of 1 half and another half, so she's not going to be Mukadeshes. Rav Papa asks a shaila similar, Bitcha uparascha bepruta. Person tells, did I skip something? Okay, so sorry, going back. Boyerava, that is. Boyerava, shtei b'nei secha l'shnei banai. So a man comes and says, look, I have 2 sons, so I want to marry off my 2 sons will be married to your 2 daughters. And he gives, and now Tosfos clarifies, we're talking about 2 daughters of this man, which is ketana, they're ketanes. So who do you give the kesef Kidushin to? To the father, not to them. So, and he's only giving the pruta, only 1 pruta here. So mahu, what's the halacha? Do I say basa naisin umekabalas linon? Do I say we go after the giver, the father of these 2 chasanim here, the 2 sons, and you go after also the recipient, the father of these 2 daughters, and and therefore you have money over here, and they'll be mukadeshes. Or do I look at the actual daughters and sons and v'haleket? There's only a half a pruta for each, and therefore they're not going to be mukadeshes. Teiku, and this remains unresolved. Not so pashut to understand this case. Tosfos talks about it over here because b'payil, he's giving 1 pruta for his 2 sons. He's like a shliach basically. He is a shliach for the 2 sons. By the Makabel, you could say that the father, he doesn't even have to be a shliach appointed to be Mekadesh his 2 daughters. He gets the kesef Kidushin. But by the Naisen, so it looks more like really the Gemara is asking, do you go after the Naisen or you go after the Makabel? Okay, Tosfos speaks about it over here. Fight is like the Gemara by Rav Papa. Rav Papa asked the Shaila, Bitcha uparascha bepruta. If a person comes and says to someone, your daughter, which you have the rights to marry her off, and then you also have a cow that I want to acquire from you, bepruta, and he gives 1 pruta for both of them. Mahu, how do we understand what this chassan is doing over here, trying to marry a wife and get a cow also at the same time? Do we say bitcha b'chatzi pruta? What he's saying is that the pruta that I'm giving you, half of the pruta is for the marriage for your daughter, uparatzcha b'chatzi pruta, and the other half of the pruta is for acquiring this para, this cow. So then she's not mukadeshes. Or should I say bitcha bepruta? He knows that he has to give a pruta for the marriage for the daughter, so the pruta is for that. Uparatzcha b'mishicha. And what he means to say to this person is the mishicha of the para, which is this different kinyan. You don't have to give kesef for that. The kinyan is with mishicha. When I'll do mishicha on this para, then I'll be kind of the para. So she'll be mukadeshes. Teiku, this also remains unresolved. By Rav Ashi, a similar shaila, Rav Ashi asked, the person says to someone, bitcha v'karkeich, your daughter and your piece of property, bepruta. I'm giving you 1 pruta for both of them. Mahu, what did the person mean to say? Do I say bitcha v'chatzi pruta, that I'm getting your daughter for half a pruta, v'karkeich v'chatzi pruta, and also the karka for half a pruta? So it doesn't work. Or dilma bitcha bepruta, the daughter, the Kidushin is for a full pruta, and the karkeich v'chazake, And the karka, when I'll make a kinyan chazaka on it, a different kinyan, then I'll be kind of the karka. Teiku, this also remains unresolved. Okay, the next piece of Gemara here goes all the way down the next time, so we'll leave it for next time. It's Hashem. Same question, right? I don't know why Rav Ashi is repeating the same shaila as Rav Papa. It seems to be the same exact concept, same exact question. Yeah. Taisus over here speaks about it, I see. Paray niknes bekesef, shadinu lu basabitay. The karka nikne bekesef. When it comes to the bas and the para, a para you can't be kind with kesef. So there's more of a svara to say that he meant by the para that it should not be with the kesef, it should be with Mashiach. Karka, one of the ways to be kind of karka is with kesef. Kitu chazaka too. So over here there's a svara to say that he meant the whole pruta for the karka and the daughter. Okay.